Today we are talking about Internet of Things. Esther, come. Esther will be our moderator, and you heard I introduced her yesterday at many at the Buddha Prize, at the Medicine, at the Future of Health panel. Esther needs no introduction anymore. Let me only say one word. She is always ahead of time. And I personally owe her a lot because she did PC Forum, and PC Forum is the role model for DLD.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everybody. How many of you saw the hologram last night? How many of you knew it was a hologram? So this panel, the Internet of Things, it's not about real-time geolocation. It's not about buses sending you information about when they're going to arrive, though that is part of the broader Internet of Things. This panel is going to be quite specifically about giving identity to things. People have identity. That's been a big part of perhaps the last 10 years of the internet. Everybody's got an identity. They've got Facebook friends. They have social networks. Now we're doing things like Friend Feed and Facebook Connect and so forth, where your identity can move across these different social networks. But poor things have been left out. They still have no identity. They're just instances of kind of meta things, but they don't have much identity of their own. And these three companies are giving life and identity to things. Let me first start with a couple of questions of you, and then I'm going to introduce our panelists very briefly. We have an amazingly long 50 minutes, so we're going to run out of things to talk about for ourselves long before the session is over, and we encourage you to ask questions. You can even interrupt while we're talking in the beginning. We don't really mind. So how many of you are on Facebook? Okay. How many of you are on another social network? Okay. How many of you have your things on a network? Steffi says, what do you mean by things? Well, the next 50 minutes, we're going to define what we mean by things. But I guess the good news is there's a big market out there waiting for you and not a lot of competition. So that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. We start with Ulla-Maaria Engeström, who runs ThingLink. Then Michael Silverman, who is biz dev or something at forgive me, I know you have a real title, at ThingD. Disclosure, I'm an investor in ThingD. I'm also an investor in Resit, which is Doug Krugman's company. So I'm either a total promoter or I'm a big believer, probably both. Given that these companies are not Google or Facebook, I am going to ask them to introduce themselves. If they were Google, it would be an ad, but given that you probably are not familiar with these companies, I think it makes sense for you to understand who they are, where they came from, and what they're doing. And then we're going to launch into an interesting discussion about the nature of things and how we can represent it online and give them identity. I apologize, I have a bit of a cold, so I'm going to be dabbing my nose the whole time, but I'm not very catching. So Ulla-Maaria, your turn. They're going to have a few slides/presentations, but it's not going to be long and boring.
Thank you. So ThingLink indeed is about the identity of objects around us. And by objects or things, we can mean, the things that you have at your home, or the things that you use at your work, or your sports equipment, or whatever you like or collect or want to discuss about with your friends. And by identity, I mean, like, who these things are, who made them, who designed them, who manufactures them, who sells them, who owns them, or who likes them. This is like the social graph of things, or, everything has their own social network. And ThingLink is about offering an easy tool to connect all those things to their network. Let's take an example. If you have any photo of a nice setup, like, this stage here, where you can identify some products or objects that you like, this setup is a great example. I saw on Malik yesterday posting about these chairs. Aren't these great? Really, a lot of you are wondering, like, who made these chairs, where they come from. Well, I just checked that, and they're made by a small Swedish company called Blåstation. So what you can do on ThingLink is that when you took the photo of this stage, on ThingLink you can just click a button, identify product, and then you can draw a square around this product and start typing its name. Then it offers, did you mean this Blåstation's chair? You said, oh yes, I did. And bing. Now your photo is connected with a blueprint description of this chair. So what just happened is that your photo became a recommendation for your friends or for the people who follow you. It might have become also a channel to buy this chair if it's available. We started ThingLink 2005. We got the idea, and we wanted to identify things, especially these long tail or invisible tail cool objects, like small design brands or vintage objects, that all cool things that are hard to find online. And we thought that, giving things identity will be a really important, essential element in the future. So we gave the identity for things in the form of a product code, a unique identifier. That's where our name comes from. A ThingLink is actually a stream of numbers and letters. It's a product code. And we really thought that's going to be important. But 5 years ago, people got excited, but they thought, well, it's still a little bit, too far away. Now, when we talk about the identity of things, it's more like, oh, it's, part of the general movement of, putting identities online. People and things, they're not too different. They all connect. And like Charles Eames actually said nicely, eventually all objects and people and ideas connect. And it's the quality of those connections that matters. Thank you.
So, since this is a business conference, how many users do you have? How many things do you have? Just
we're in private beta still. We have 4,000 beta users. We'll be launching later this spring.
Okay, thanks. ThingD, it's kind of interesting. If you saw this, you would immediately match it to the person on the stage. ThingD is an American company. It began less with an aesthetic sensibility and much more with a notion of let's create a registry of things. And I will let Michael take over from that.
So I'll be a little less dynamic than Ulla was, but I think that both Ulla and Esther have touched on something that sort of led into our project. So I'm Mike Silverman. I'm from ThingDemon is the name of the company, ThingD for short. And I'm based out of New York City with a team of us of 6 people who, to be honest, the project started because we were a bunch of people crazy about things. So the idea was that we started building a database around all the things in the world. And to be a little more specific, I think when we all refer to things, it's a wide variety. So it's anything from a consumer product to horticulture to pets. But think about the things that you would identify yourself with. So people are very passionate about lots of different things, whether they be brands or the animals in their life. And we started building a database around it and pulling down a whole bunch of information, media associated, attributes associated with various things. And on top of this database, we then built a platform. And the platform that we built, not very dynamic again, but the platform that we built is sort of connecting people to the things in their lives. So that ranges for a variety of things. It could be what interests you, what you like, what you own, what you want to sell. And our idea was we're just sort of passionate about how people identify themselves with things. Because as Esther talked about, she asked the question before, how many of you are on Facebook, how many of you are on social networks? And I think the question resides similarly with maybe the next step in the evolution of identifying yourself on the internet, and that is, how do you identify yourself with the products and the things in your life? And that's the gist of ThingD, our project at ThingD, is mobile, social, the new internet. How do you use the new internet to identify yourself with things? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Same question, how many things, how many users?
Things, many millions. We have a database exceeds, I think, 50 million things right now, maybe north of 60. And users, we're sort of early adopters. We have a few thousand working on our site.
And many of the things obviously are pretty redundant, and things people only a mother could love, and things only a manufacturer could love. So one interesting question about all these thing databases is what do you do with them? How do you monetize it? How do you make it dynamic? And you mentioned a couple of these. I think probably the most monetizable thing of all is not what I like or what I own, but what I want. Whether you want to please me, I'm an investor and you want to send me a little present before you come and show me your company, or I'm somebody on a dating site, or it's Christmas time. There's a couple of these that are well known. It's the bridal registry and a couple of wish lists. But I think thinking of the applications is that's where the business side is going to go. So one cool thing is doing what eBay did for selling, for renting. Little drum roll for Doug Krugman here, please.
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to start off with a video a little bit about what we're not talking about, because the Internet of Things can be a confusing idea, and it's been out there. So I think this is from the European Union kind of instigated this, semantic technologies, but there's no sound.
Remember, this is supposed to be funny.
Will be active participants in the future Internet.
The Internet of Things is a very important part of the future Internet. In the Internet of Things, we have a lot of real-world objects like cars and machines and things in the supply chain, which will be monitored directly. The things that we have, they are connected through services to the business systems, to the business operations, in order to provide, for example, higher visibility, thereby leading to improvements in business operations, for example, in manufacturing. And we believe that this will significantly shape the future of the Internet.
The digital information revolution is upon us. It will be built around an Internet of services, which will depend on an Internet mobile as well as an Internet of Things. Tomorrow, every carton of milk will be on the Internet. See you on the net.
Okay, so what Resit is about is really not about putting every carton of milk on the Internet, but about your stuff. And the idea is that we all have lots of stuff, and we're about making it easy to share that stuff as well as rent it or even sell it. So big, expensive stuff, and not so big, not so expensive stuff. There are a lot of things out there. There are a lot of eBays and Amazons and Craigslists where you'll find things listed. And the real revolution now is that our things like us can have a network and have their own audience. So now our stuff has distribution. And it's not just distribution. I mean, this is the most powerful distribution network ever created, the Internet. So what's missing from that is the ability to manage that powerful network. So managing our stuff means things like scheduling it, defining, classifying what things we have, and then lots of other things like content management and pricing and getting into yield management and reviews. But ultimately, it's really about making this interesting and about people and their stuff and seeing what other people have and what things that you can share with other people. That's what Resit is about.
Okay.
And there's much more I could go into, but I think we'll.
Well, I will ask you some questions.
Okay.
So there are mics in the audience. If you're getting restless and you want to ask a question, just get up to the mic and I will try and notice. But in the meantime, I want to press all of you a little bit more about your business models. So we'll start with Doug because he went last. Just how do you make money off this? Who are your early customers? We've now talked about the concepts, which is great, but tell me a little bit about how this actually becomes a real business.
Well, for us, the biggest initial market is vacation rentals. And that's, in the US, that's a $24 billion market. And right now, there are some very big players in there, but they're all listing services. They're really not transactional services. And what we want to do is provide individuals with the tools to manage those assets and ultimately provide the transactional engine and take a piece of that transaction. And that engine is something that we expect people will want to use because it'll make it easier to manage these assets.
So you're adding the fourth dimension to things, basically.
To the time dimension is a big piece of that, yeah.
So how much did you look at the hotel business with, it's going to cost you $200 this week, but $500 during the week of that DLD is in town. The hotel prices go up, the hotel prices, the dinner prices go up.
So that's where I come out of, which is the travel industry. Really, travel industry has become all about yield management and hotels and airlines. If they don't sell that room or sell that seat, it's gone forever. So they've become extremely sophisticated about how to price and promote those things out to people and looking at bringing that down to the individual level.
So this is software as a service?
It's software as a service platform for doing something that is actually can be extremely sophisticated and bring that power down and control down to the individual.
Okay, so your vision is there are all these things, they're lying around inert in people's closets, your dining room table. Now suddenly you can rent them out, you can monetize them, you can divide them up into a stream of income generating.
Exactly.
I mean, you're starting with vacation rentals. What's next? Bicycles, lawnmowers, living room furniture?
Well, I expect that we'll get into things like apartment rentals and the general rental business. But boats and planes and things like that I think are very interesting, as well as the internet is so fabulous because somebody on the other side of the globe can find out all about something, where you are and say, hey, when I go across, I want to rent that boat, or I need scuba diving gear, or I need something, and I can find it, and maybe it's an old college friend of mine who has it, and I say, wow, I'm going to be there, can I use what you've got while I'm there?
Okay. So there's some notion also of I'll show things to my network, not to the world at large?
Yeah, I think that's really the, a big part of the power of this is that interest, like both of these guys have, in people seeing what things they have, so in identifying yourself with those things.
And Michael, what are you doing to, what are the applications on top of the cute little pictures you showed?
So we're not software as a service. We see ourselves as a platform that we've built on top of the database of all these things. And the platform, we built an API along with the platform, and the API we've used accesses the database to sort of build out a whole variety of applications. We have an iPhone application, we're building applications for a variety of smartphones, and then we have a whole bunch of social applications on top of that as well. But to be specific, feature-wise, you can do a great variety of things. You can geotag your things. You can search nearby for things that have already been geotagged. So the concept being that in the mobile space, that there will be a point in time at which you can use your phone to sort of learn about the world around you, the things around you. It could be from using a variety of protocols, whether it be image recognition technology, or it's Bluetooth or RFID, which is very popular. You'll be able to use your mobile phone, which sort of has a lot of these protocols built in today, sort of along with the database that we've built to learn about the world around you, learn about the things around you.
But so what are some of the applications? I mean, like a wish list, do you send a list of things to your insurance company?
A web example of an application that we built is building lists of the things in your life. So you build a list of all the things that you own, all the things that you want to sell, and you can sort of customize the lists as you please. You can build a Christmas wish list and then export it and send it to your girlfriend or boyfriend via email, post it on Facebook, post it on Twitter, and sort of to socialize around the things in your life, socialize around the things that you want in your life.
And Ulla, what are people going to do with ThingLink?
Well, we have two business models, of which the first is more simple than the other. And the first model can be a business model for anybody who publishes, whose business is to publish great photos. So first business model is the affiliate model. Since we think ThingLink as a recommendation system, then those photos become the recommendation, and anybody who can attract people to view their photos and to click through and see what objects are in the photos, perhaps purchase those objects, can make a revenue. Second business model centers around the fan communities. We can serve brands information statistics about who likes their products, who already owns their products, and that introduces a whole new set of offerings that we can make to brands, lifestyle brands.
So do the two of you, do you have brands talking with you already?
We do. We started the private beta with 10, the most famous Finnish design brands. I'm from Finland. Yeah, I forgot to say that.
And similarly, we're doing the same thing. But I think we seem to have a lot that overlaps here, but I think that Ulla sort of approached the project from a different perspective than we did. For us, it was much more about a person identifying themselves with their things, less so the things themselves having an identity, which I think is more towards what Ulla does. And but to your question, I think we have a whole bunch of brands that we've signed up as business deals to have a presence in our system, so that they can have some control over the way that their products and their items are represented on our system, and that they can learn about how the community, their user base, is engaging with their products and how they feel about their products. And then similarly, they can learn about what their user base is also interested in. So if you like a Diane von Furstenberg dress, do you also like a Theory blazer? And why do you not have a Diane von Furstenberg blazer?
Can I comment?
Yeah, sure. And the question, great.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, and it's like we're now just kind of venturing in this area that when we create these relations and we feed our activity streams with the products that we like and have how much we can commercialize initially this relationship so that it doesn't become irritating for the user. I think that's where the user got to have a choice, because nobody will want to list their things if the first thing what will happen then is that somebody out of the blue starts offering you stuff. You don't want that. You want to hear from your friends what are the cool things that they just got. because that might help you in your daily life when you have to make decisions. But you don't, frankly, you're not really interested what kind of orange juice your neighbor drinks.
Question.
Okay, thank you. If we are...
But say who you are.
Oh, sorry. John Gaunt from the Media Dojo. If we are painting physical objects with digital attributes, what's the difference between what you're doing and other things that are happening in augmented reality or in some of the geotag services?
So, I mean, I don't think that it's all that different. I think for us, it's sort of a broader project about how do you associate, well, for us, or at Think D, it's a project about how do you associate people with things in their lives. But no, you're entirely right. We, on our iPhone application, for instance, we have geotagging, and we just added augmented reality to our tool also, so that you could sort of peruse the world around you through the lens of your camera and learn about what things are nearby. So it's not that different. Eventually the applications that get built on top of these databases and these platforms will be very much those features.
I mean, to some extent, it is the same thing. It's simply the augmented reality uses the database of things. I mean, augmented reality says this is an X, but now, well, what is an X? What other things, what is the X prime? Is this an instance of some brand name, their SKU, whatever, in size 32? So that it's simply it's kind of like the universal product code at the back end. And to me, what's interesting is what you can build on top of it. Augmented reality is one example of how you use some of this information. If the company existed, there would be a fourth panelist here for a company called Barcode Wikipedia. And for each product, you can have, instead of a single Wikipedia-like description, you can have a layer. This is the description of it from a carbon consumption point of view. This is the description of it from a child labor point of view. This is a description of it from a purchase availability point of view. So you have this unique product of which there are multiple instances, and there's also different kinds of descriptions from lots of different people's points of view. Good Guide is kind of one implementation of this Barcode Wikipedia idea. The point is an object has all these different perspectives you can put onto it, including where is an instance of it physically, who made it, who owns it, is it available for sale? Some of these are applications, some of these are just information. Unfortunately, Barcode Wikipedia was an idea developed in England that does not yet exist. But if anybody wants to make it, I'll fund it. Go ahead. And then there's a question over there and another one here. So.
No, I just want to comment. I think that if we talk about the attributes of a product that are interesting, what we used to talk about, like the kind of traditional attributes, is like material and size and the exactly the kind of origin, who made it, and so on. But the kind of new attributes that are now becoming more and more interesting is definitely location, time, and that introduced the provenance of object. So we're also, when we talk about objects and the kind of the Internet of Things, it's not that, it's not only for knowing about more stuff so that we can buy more stuff. It's about, in the ideal case, it's about, paying more attention to our environment and discovering interesting things that can perhaps last longer, travel from one owner to another, and that's why we want to start tracking the kind of the ownership of objects and the location, and so we could take more care of the objects that we have.
And maybe reuse them and not throw them away all the time. Okay, over there, great.
Hello, my name is Monty. I'm from the company Ahead of Time, and my question is, I think the Internet of Things will start a new era of the Internet, but at which stage are we at? How's the status quo at the moment, and how fast will it develop? When will we have an Internet of Things and a true machine-to-machine communication? What do you think?
My machine's already talking.
I think in terms of the history of things, the Internet of Things has been around forever. I mean, eBay is a 15-year-old company, right? So people have been associating themselves with things in a variety of ways for a long time. So to that extent, we're pretty deep in the evolution of it. But I agree, and I think we all agree here that we're at sort of an interesting junction for this specific field, which is now that Facebook and a lot of these social companies have sort of taken off, and there's a sort of a new phase of the internet beginning. Where do things fit in sort of in that sphere?
I mean, think again to people. People were sending email, and they had these social networks, but they weren't explicit. People were just sending email, and then suddenly originally you could have a page on GeoCities, but that didn't last. But now it's sort of like your identity is your Twitter name and your Facebook name, and now they're linked. And so there's kind of a place to go virtually to find you. And of course, you're present in multiple places. You have lots of different personalities, but there's a notion of you as an individual. In the same way, there's going to be the notion of the meta thing, this product that has a particular SKU, and then there's going to be instances of these things all over the place, and they'll start to have identities. And if they want to talk to each other, maybe not sending email, but I can certainly imagine a package that would, instead of FedEx tracking the package is simply going to tweet where it is. And so you follow this package on Twitter until it shows up, and that kind of stuff. So certainly it's very, very early, but it's clearly beginning. It just hasn't been kind of almost noticed as something that's happening.
Matthias Weber from Weave magazine, and I have a question. When I think of the Internet of Things, I think of stuff like RFID tags. I can put on objects that would then do certain actions on the web or something. What is your take on this? What is your perspective? What do you see? Would you see this happening in a long term, short term? You think about implementing this kind of RFID things into your services?
I think that some of that stuff is happening, and you look at companies like Zipcar, where you can tell where the car is and when it's available. The reason I played the video is because I don't think that every carton of milk is going to have an RFID tag in it, and I don't think that the government is the right organization to do those things. And that it doesn't make business sense. So I think that there are business cases for that, but the costs are, even though that little chip is very inexpensive, there are a whole lot of other costs to that system that just don't make it that economical in most cases.
I also think that RFID, which has sort of been promising and successful, is just one of a variety of protocols that will eventually sort of allow the things in the world around you to sort of interact with you. So I touched on it a little bit before, but mobile search will unquestionably change and evolve over the next decade. And one of the things that might happen is that you'll be able to use your phone to interact with RFID, to interact with sort of low-power Bluetooth, and then other things. Your carton of milk might not have an RFID tag, but it will definitely, there will be a time when you can do image recognition, learn about the carton of milk that's in the store, see if it's, sort of a soy product or something like that, and be able to learn all about the items around you using various protocols.
Certainly already, the carton of milk doesn't have an RFID tag, but the box in which 48 cartons of milk were packed probably did have an RFID tag. And it may have had also a temperature sensor so that when it comes to the store, if it was left in a truck overnight and it got too hot, you'll know the milk is bad. So RFID is being used very broadly, but it's being used often in the way that long before we had identities on Facebook, we were probably in some employer's database. We were certainly in a credit card database. We were in the listing of Social Security or passport ID numbers of a government. But that was other organizations that kind of held us as just as little things, not as individuals with full unique identities. So right now the things are, many of these things have identities in various databases, in some manufacturer's inventory, in a store's listings or something, but they don't have their own unique identity as things, and that's the change that we see.
I think there are 4 kinds of things in the world in general. There are like good quality things that, are not personally meaningful. Those things we're happy to, pass on and recycle. Then there are things that are good quality and personally meaningful. Those things we want to keep and, perhaps, give to our children and so on. Then there are things that are bad quality but still personally meaningful. Those things we still keep because, we don't dare to throw them away. Perhaps they are Christmas presents or something. And then there is this category, bad quality, meaningless products. And this is trash category. And I don't think that it makes any sense to tag this trash category. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, perhaps it does. But still, for us personally, we are not interested in hearing, about the trash that our friends consume. So tagging those, it really doesn't serve for us. Actually, perhaps it would serve for the waste management.
Yeah. If you were trying to follow where all the stuff went that got recycled. How many of you know this wonderful Patek Philippe ad commercial that says a watch is simply something you hold for the next generation, you don't actually own it? That's, that watch is perhaps the ultimate thing that has its own identity. Another question here.
Yeah, John.
We haven't persuaded you.
John again. So yes, no Internet of Crap panel next year. But the media companies, we can easily imagine a thing being a distributor of media. Can you think of use cases where media companies might look at things as a possible audience?
Media companies, it's about the Internet of Things. They publish photos every day about the things that they want people to know about.
But as an audience, what were you thinking of? This is an interesting concept.
Perhaps in a sense to where media is almost the fuel for the gadget or the thing, to where part of the experience of appreciating the thing is that it has content that comes into it. I mean, almost in the sense that you can have analysis of the trash that you are being thrown away, which is, on the one hand is telemetry, but also you can get suggestions on top of that, that maybe, there are sensors that can be put into, for lack of a better term, our restrooms, which are actually helping our health.
So the things generate information. They're not. They become media rather than become audience.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, yeah. One way or another. But media is part of the experience of the thing.
Right. Can you give your mic to the guy right behind you?
I was just going to say, what do you mean by media? Because you look at social media, and that is media in itself. Are you thinking of a sort of a journalism type media?
Yeah, they produce content.
Right. Yeah. So. Absolutely.
Yeah, like the package that tweets its location, or the trash that tweets what kind of dangerous chemicals it's got. Go ahead.
Shawn Phelan, entrepreneur from the UK. Just an observation. I think that things have been, if not consumers of media services, things are increasingly consumers of network services, and more things are using telecom networks in various ways, GSM networks, whatever else. And I remember back in the first sort of telecom bubble in 2000, 2001, when people were spending countless billions putting completely unnecessary fiber around the world, there were various sort of dodgy presentations from equipment vendors saying, oh, in 5 years' time, all the devices in the world are all going to be communicating over sort of GSM and internet, and that's why we need 1,000 times as much bandwidth as we have today, because all our things were going to be communicating. And that was about 91, so I think we're still waiting.
I think it's going to happen. So anybody have a last comment?
I think we're benefiting greatly from all that excess bandwidth right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be used. Yes. Really fast.
So what I'm missing is the bi-directional relationship between the owners of things and the things themselves. So I've heard business models that says, here I can now identify an object and maybe I can buy it, etc. After you've aggregated all this information, I'm wondering if you can figure out a way of using that for the next cycle of product design, basically.
I think that the owners can become part of the product design already. I think that's how we're looking into the fan communities, that there are a lot of possibilities of engaging those people who already are very loyal users of certain products or brands can become part of the product development.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point. A lot of the things that we're thinking about building in these platforms is sort of crowdsourcing tools to learn about what the audience thinks about brands and products, and then those brands and products can then use that data to learn about their design and their products themselves.
Okay, it's 10 to 10, but the clock tells me our time is up. I think there may be a musical interlude or something. I hope you all found this interesting, and use these products, try them out, put up a wish list, and see if people send you anything. That's really the best application as far as I'm concerned. Thank you all very much. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.